I'm Kristin Gutierrez, your host for Women in Localization's Ask the Expert. And today I am joined by Natalia Levitina. Hi.
Hello. Hello. How are you, Kristin?
Oh, I'm so good. Good to see you.
Same here.
Tell us about you.
Sure. So I work at PTC, a software company that brings digital and physical worlds together through a combination of CAD, PLM, IoT, and AR products. And I work in a localization department. We have quite a mature department at PTC for localization. I work as a localization director. So I'm responsible for our localization technology stack, as well as the in-house translation team and a vendor program.
Yeah, and you've been in the industry a while, right?
That's right. That's right. I started at an LSP, and my first assignments were desktop publishing. So I ended up managing a desktop publishing team for a small company that was later acquired by Lionbridge. And then for a few years, I worked at SDL, where you and I worked together. That was my sales experience. I was selling Trados desktop publishing, desktop Trados Studio products. That was actually around the time when Trados was acquired by SDL. So that was fun. And then I started to work at PTC, which is where I was doing multiple things. I was managing marketing program for localization. I was doing vendor management. I managed in-house project managers for some time, and different technology things that I learned at PTC that I really were new at that time. Machine translation was new. We started doing that, and I still retain that. I'm involved with business analytics for localization now. So a lot of cool stuff that has been happening lately in the industry that's really interesting to be involved in.
Yeah, it is a really interesting time in our industry. But you mentioned a couple things that I think is really important, especially in this series, because in part it helps to share knowledge with people who are maybe just getting started in the industry. There's no one career path, right? So not about me. So like with you mentioned, and you're not the first person I've interviewed who said this. This is crazy, that you started off as a desktop publisher.
Yeah, what I like about the industry, that it gives you an opportunity to pursue your different interests. And I was very lucky at that small company that I worked for, that LSP, that after I led the desktop publishing team, there was an opening in an R&D department to work on the tool that we had developed ourselves internally called Foreign Desk. Maybe some old timers in the industry remember that name. I basically was lucky to work as a product manager for that. So I experienced a different side of localization on the technology side, which I really liked, and I retained that piece for all of these years. So I guess you're right. A lot of people have found in localization that there's so many different things you could do and you can pivot into. It's not just, okay, I start as a project manager and I end up as a project manager. Mm-hmm. There's a variety here.
It is. It's really useful. I've gotten feedback to know like where people come from, to see where it's possible to go, so that if the industry is something of passion for someone, then sometimes just getting in and getting started is better, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've told me a little bit about yourself and you've shared a little bit about your background. Thank you. So obviously your career is complex and it's very long and spanning, a lot of different paths. So what are some specifics, like what's some specific wisdom that you can share with our listeners from what you've learned?
Well, I think I would want to single out one of the things that I discovered recently that is really useful is the mentorship program. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I'm not sure it's a wisdom, so you can call it a wisdom for everybody, but just something to keep in mind that's very nice to be involved in. So the way I discovered that is actually PTC launched a mentorship program a few years ago, and it was specifically actually for women. And I had a good fortune to get into it, and I got paired with a finance executive who was located in a different country, but he visited our Boston office. That was all before COVID, so we still were able to see each other in person. So he visited the Boston office fairly often, but when he did, he was really very busy. His schedule was fully booked, but he was very generous with his time. He always found the time for me. And the way the program works is that you, as a mentee, you set the goals. You set your agenda. When you meet with a mentor, you ask them questions, and they help you basically with your own agendas and set of goals that you set. So one of the things I was contemplating at that time was whether I should go back to school and all of the questions and details around it. And my mentor was pretty helpful and encouraging in that regard. He actually did encourage me to do that. And I'm still pursuing my MBA as a result of it. So I have somebody to blame now. And then the second round of that program came about. And because I had such a good experience, I was like, oh, I should sign up for it again. And then I was like, no, hesitating to take somebody else's spot. So I figured, what should I do? And my manager encouraged me to, at that time, to sign up as a mentor at that time. And I was accepted into the program. And at first I was like, what can I tell this, young lady from across the world in Europe that she doesn't know already? All of a sudden I realized that there's always something that another person can help the other person. It doesn't have to be any big question. It doesn't have to be any revelation, but you may know something that the other person, you may have had an experience that the other person has not had, and sharing that might be very insightful for them. We all have different experiences, different backgrounds, different perspectives. So suppose there's a question on how to work without an authority. What would I do if I were to convince other people and I'm not their manager? They don't really treat me as a person with authority. So even if you have not been in that situation yourself, you might have been in a meeting where somebody tackled it very well with humor and got attention and got people to laugh and then to do whatever you're asking them to do. Or maybe you've heard stories that somebody achieved something just by bringing chocolate to the office when we were all still back in the office.
Yeah.
And also, it's not always it's something about knowing. It's also about just asking that other person questions, helping them think more about the situation, sort of step out of their own perspective on this and look at it from the other perspective. You probably noticed yourself that it's not just enough to think about something, but it also helps to talk about something, especially to talk to somebody who is listening. And then once you start talking, you may get an idea or two that you haven't had before. And I think listening, learning how to listen is one of the biggest benefits of getting involved into mentorship. Whether you are getting involved as a mentor or as a mentee, you are learning how to listen, which is a very useful skill in anything that we do in and outside of localization.
Yeah, true. Well, thank you so much for joining again, and we really
thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I think the insight you shared, the mentoring topic, is really, really useful for this audience. So thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.